And now in this lecture we talk about the story in the title of the great poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin. So we start with the story. In a nutshell, the story of the great poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin, is about the adventures of two knights, Tariel and Aftandil. Tariel is the protagonist of the poem, is the knight that wears the tiger skin, and Aftandil is the chief of staff of the Arab armies. In the next step I will talk about the story in detail. The story of the great poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin, can be divided into two parts. The first part is the search for Tariel, the protagonist of the poem. The second part is the search for Tariel's beloved, the standard John. So we start with the first part, the search for Tariel. One day, King Rostevan, who is the king of Arabia, calls to an hunting competition with Aftandil. Aftandil is the chief of staff of King Rostevan's armies. During the competition, they take a break and they rest under a tree. And all of a sudden, they see a mysterious knight crying by a river. And again, all of a sudden, they see a mysterious knight crying by a river. So King Rostevan wanted very much to know who is that mysterious knight. Therefore he sent slaves in order to contact the mysterious knight, but the mysterious knight reacts violently and kills all the slaves that were sent by King Rostevan in order to contact him, and then disappears. Tinatin is the only daughter of King Rostevan, and she loves Aftandil. Aftandil also loves Tinatin. So Tinatin asks for her beloved Aftandil to find the mysterious knight in 3 years, and in return she will marry him. So Aftandil searches the mysterious knight all over the world, and after 2 years and 9 months he finds the mysterious knight. The mysterious knight tells him that his name is Tariel, and he was the commander of India's fleet, and he also loves the standard John. The standard John is the daughter of King Panther'S, who is the king of India. But the problem was that his beloved the standard John was abducted, and from that point he sank into deep depression. He was always crying and sobbing, and he also secluded himself in a cave with only a maiden by his side. The name of the maiden is Asmat. So Asmat helps Tariel to cope with the tragedy that he underwent. So Aftandil was very moved by the story of the mysterious knight Tariel, and therefore he becomes friend of Tariel, and he also promises Tariel to help him to find his beloved, the standard John. So that is the first part of the story, the search for Tariel. The second part of the story is the search for the standard John, Tariel's beloved. So in the second part, Aftandil searches the standard John, and after a lot of searching and investigation about her, he finds out that the standard John, Tariel's beloved, was abducted by the Kajis. The Kajis are demons. Therefore, Aftandil, Tariel, and Pridon, who is the ruler of the city Mungazanzar, together with 300 soldiers, go to the country of the Kajis in order to rescue the standard John from her captivity. But the problem was that the country of the Kajis is a fortress, and it is actually impossible to infiltrate to that fortress. The second problem was the Kajis were very strong warriors, so it is actually impossible mission to rescue the standard John from her captivity by the Kajis. But against all the odds, the 300 soldiers, together with Tariel, Aftandil, and Pridon, did the unthinkable. That is to say, they succeeded to rescue the standard John from her captivity by the Kajis. The story has a happy ending, in the sense that Aftandil marries Tinatin, and Tariel, who is the protagonist of the poem, marries his beloved, the standard John. So we finished to talk about the story of the great poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin. In the next step, I'll talk about the title of the great poem. Actually, it is not clear if the animal in the poem is a panther or a tiger, so we'll assume that it's a tiger. Therefore, the title of the red poem is The Knight in the Tiger Skin. The knight is Tariel, the protagonist of the poem, that wears the tiger skin. Actually, there is a particular chapter in the poem that talks about Tariel that kills a lion and a tiger. And the story of that particular chapter is as follows. One day, Tariel sees a lion that was chasing after a tiger. So Tariel thought that the lion's intention is to kill the tiger, and therefore, in order to rescue the tiger from the hands of the lion, he kills the lion, and then he goes to the tiger in order to hug her. But the tiger was very angry at Tariel because of the fact that the lion and the tiger were not fighting with each other, they were just playing a game. And therefore the tiger starts to eat Tariel very strongly with his paws. So Tariel could bear no more the blows of the tiger, and therefore eats back the tiger, and with one blow, the tiger was killed. So actually it is a very tragic story. Why? Because of the fact that Tariel risked his life in order to save the tiger from the hands of the lion. But then, on the end of the story, he was the one that killed it. It was not intentionally, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the story, Tariel was the one that killed the tiger that he loved so much. Therefore, Tariel is very sorry about the fact that he killed the tiger, and Tariel is also very angry on himself. And therefore, he decides to wear the tiger skin as a coat. So there are two reasons that Tariel wears the tiger skin. The first reason is because it reminds him the tiger that he killed, and the second reason, it is also a reminder for him. It reminds him his beloved the standard God that was abducted twice. How come that it reminds him his beloved? Because of the fact that the face of his beloved the standard God is very similar to the face of the tiger. But again, there are two reasons that Tariel wears the tiger skin. The first reason is it is a reminder for him that he killed the tiger that he loved so much. The second reason is because of the fact that it also reminds him his beloved the standard God that was abducted twice. We know that the tiger's figure is a very important figure in the poem. How do we know it? Because of the fact that the title of the poem is The Knight in the Tiger Skin. The knight is Tariel, the protagonist of the poem, that wears the tiger's skin. But the question is why the tiger's figure is a very important figure in the poem, and the answer, as I already mentioned before, because of the fact that the face of the tiger was very similar to the face of the standard John, Tariel's beloved. Okay, thank you very much.